Fans around the world were captivated by the stories of Mercedes sandbagging their testing car and not showing the full-out speed. But after their performance in Bahrain, where Lewis was over 50 seconds slower than Verstappen, there is nowhere to hide for Mercedes. Stick around to get all the reactions to Mercedes' performance and find out just what radical upgrades Toto is planning to get the Silver Arrows back on track for the 2023 campaign. We also reveal the damage control Aston Martin did to avoid tension between Alonso and Stroll. First up, all the reactions. Damon Hill, a Sky Sports analyst and former F1 champion, feels sorry for Lewis Hamilton and George Russell after the humiliating experience. In an interview, Hill expressed his thoughts on Mercedes' disappointing performance. "Poor old Lewis and George Russell," Hill began. "I mean, this was a race that Toto described as his worst day in motor racing. They were humiliated. It's not every day that you see a team like Mercedes, which has won 8 consecutive Constructors' Championships, struggle on the track." While Hamilton remained positive after the race, Hill sees little positive that Mercedes can take from the performance at the Bahrain GP. He fears that the German racing stable could be in worse shape than the disaster year of 2022. They were beaten by a customer car. "The gap is probably bigger now than it was last year," continued the 1996 world champion. To make matters worse, there seems to be a misunderstanding over Mercedes' decision to stick with the W13 concept, the car that gave the team nothing but headaches last year. They even got the regulations changed a little bit on safety grounds so that the cars were raised up another 1.5 centimeters. And that hasn't helped them, it appears, Hill observed. The former F1 driver is worried that the problems at Mercedes cannot be solved in the foreseeable future. Maybe there's fundamentally something wrong with the direction that they've gone in. If that's the case, then they've got a bigger problem, said Hill, referring to the constraints by the budget cap. They might have to just plug on with what they've got and prove them wrong with their design. Hill's thoughts were echoed by the trackside engineering director Andrew Chauvelin, who said it was a very difficult Sunday. "The gap to Red Bull is huge and we've got Aston Martin and Ferrari ahead of us as well," the 49-year-old Briton stated. "It's clear that Mercedes has some serious work to do if they want to stay competitive this season." Chauvelin continued, "Clearly we have a lot of work ahead, and we need to go back and come up with a plan to try and find improvements. We're lacking overall grip, and on a high degradation track like this, there was nothing that the drivers could do to attack. It's a painful conclusion for Mercedes, but it's clear that they need to make some major improvements if they want to challenge for the championship this year." So where has it all gone wrong for Mercedes, and how will they course correct? Rosberg, who won a world title with Wolff and Mercedes in 2016, believes that he knows where the problems are coming from. "It's just a general challenge. They haven't really understood the new regulations entirely yet and what needs to be done to be fast," said Rosberg. "It's clear that the new regulations have presented a unique challenge for the team, and they're still trying to figure out the best way to adapt." However, Rosberg also believes that Toto is the right man to fix things. One of Toto's greatest strengths is the succession planning part of it. And it started very, very early. It started even in 2014, 15, 16, he explained. Toto has always been focused on planning for the future, and he's done a great job at bringing in fresh talent to keep the team moving forward. Let's remember also the switch with Paddy Lowe at the time. Paddy moving out, another person coming in and bringing another fresh set of dynamics and making further progress. That's always been a great strength of Toto's, so I don't think that's the issue there at the moment. A lot of fresh talent has taken over from the older guard within the team. With Toto seemingly being the right man to get Mercedes out of this tricky situation, let's hear what he had to say. Following the Bahrain Grand Prix, he shared his disappointment. "We're just lacking pace front, right and centre, and that's a reflection of the tests. Wolff had expected a new package to improve lap times by 3 tenths, but after the disappointing results, he revealed that they needed much stronger solutions. I think it needs to be much more radical than just hoping for a 3 tenths upgrade," he said. It's clear that Wolff is determined to get Mercedes back on track, but he acknowledges that the competition is fierce. "Red Bull were on another planet," he conceded. "It reminds me of our best years when we just put a second on everybody else. That is the benchmark, but we need to put one step after the other to just come back, and we can do that." The good news for Mercedes fans is that Wolff and his team know exactly where to pinpoint the issue and are ready to take radical steps to fix them. Wolff praised Aston Martin for their impressive performance, but he knows that there is a lot of Mercedes DNA in their success, and that can be used to benefit of the Mercedes team. Toto then went on to concede that they will abandon their zero sidepod concept in order to challenge their rivals again. We are absolutely in the same choir. I don't think that this package is going to be competitive eventually. Can you believe it? The constructor that once dominated the sport has given up on their controversial concept, realizing that it's just not good enough to win races. But don't worry, Mercedes fans, Wolff has assured us that they will regroup and find a new development direction to pursue. They're going to sit down with the engineers and ask themselves, what do we need to do to win races? Last season, Mercedes only claimed one victory with a machine that Lewis Hamilton couldn't wait to consign to the history books. And yet, they decided to evolve their concept instead of starting from scratch. Meanwhile, their rivals Red Bull adopted a completely different sidepod design and won 17 out of 22 rounds. The Red Bull domination in Bahrain just proves that their machine is currently top of the F1 class. But Wolff says, motor racing is crazy. Maybe we can turn the ship around this year, but it needs a lot to change the pecking order. Lewis is clearly not happy with the performance of the car, and Sky Sports pundit Ted Kravitz believes the Alonso P3 has added insult to injury for Lewis. They were 3rd and 4th in Q2, but ended up behind Alonso with the same power unit, Kravitz told Sky. This is the key. Shifting our focus to Aston Martin, it seems that whilst Alonso's great result in Bahrain has the whole team excited, behind-the-scenes work has begun to do damage control and prevent Lance and Alonso derailing the team's incredible start to the season. But what had the Aston Martin team worried? As the lights went out, Alonso dropped a few places and soon found himself fighting with Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. But as he pulled wide and slowed down, Stroll collided with him from behind, leaving Alonso lucky not to spin out of control. The veteran driver was left frustrated and confused as he radioed his team to find out who had hit him and if they'd been penalised. Despite his repeated inquiries, his engineer told him that no further action had been taken by race control. But who was to blame for the incident? Aston Martin refused to reveal that it was Stroll who had hit Alonso. However, Sky Sports commentator Martin Brundle suggested that Alonso wouldn't be too bothered by the collision, as it was mainly due to Alonso cutting in while slowing down. Alonso was fortunate not to pick up any lasting damage or punctures, but it was certainly a heart-in-mouth moment for the Spaniard. Brundle went on to warn Stroll not to treat Alonso like he did Seb, otherwise he can expect a very different outcome. They may not be right at the front in qualifying, but we do think that during the longer stints it's a great car, and if anybody can wring the neck and drive the wheels off a great car, it's Fernando Alonso, Brundle told Sky Sports F1. If Stroll puts the moves on Fernando that he put on Seb as his teammate, he'll be in the grandstands or he'll have more than sore wrists. What are your thoughts on the first race of the season? Let us know.